Hello folks, welcome back to my channel, Doc Cholo's Vlog for Kali Exercise. And today we'll be taking up lesson number 9, and if you recall, lesson number 8 was the use of two weapons. We started with two weapons using the puros, okay? And please join me as I do the exercise, okay? And if you recall, most of my posts here are actual exercise. I do exercise daily, one in the afternoon and one about 10 o'clock in the evening before I go to bed. And I'd like to join you, especially if you want to be physically fit. And I wish you could join me in this kind of a mild to moderate exercise, especially for those seniors and those who have probable restrictions to do strenuous exercises. Okay, so this is Kali exercise. We'll take a trivia. And by the way, if you are new, I just want to thank you. Okay, please continue on, follow the lessons 1 up to the present lesson, and if you have subscribed, thank you very much. I hope you're learning something out of my posts. And this is reality, meaning to say that we're talking about Kali. And let me explain to you why I emphasize Kali and not Arnis, okay? And if you follow the lesson 1 to the present, I hope you're going to get some reality of what Kali and Arnis is all about. Okay, so lesson number 9, we continue on with pigurang walo using two weapons. Okay. I do it first slowly and with extended arms, okay? And mind you, this is the reason why I call it exercise. This is Kali, and these are Kali moves using two weapons. This time I'm using Arnis stick, okay? And by the way, my exercise doesn't count. Okay, I'm not counting as many exercises do. I do it by feeling. Once you're tired, once that you have reached the maximum heart rate, then I slow down and rest, okay? Okay, this is pigurang walo, inverted 8. And you can do it as I am doing now. This is alternate the strong hand and the left hand. And you may move your legs, okay, just to make it more graceful. You may face it in other, okay, but you're doing the same moves, okay? And then you can speed it up. And you can cross over, okay? When you do this, you cross over, okay? This is crossing over with the right hand. And this is alternate right and left hand. And you're extending your arm, extending the full length of your arm, and the stick, mind you, the stick, the movement is slashing or slice, okay? Okay, I have paused a little bit to give time to adjust to my maximum heart rate. So I've reached close to my maximum heart rate, and I took a few seconds of rest before we go to the next exercise. Okay, the first one, pigurang walo, was using the bolo type of strikes slash. Now the next one will be doing the Arnis type using the wrist. Okay. Alternate and cross over. Alternate and cross over. Alternate and cross over. Let's do it with bolo, okay? Figurang walo with a bolo. This is the alternate right and left hand, or the strong hand and the weak hand, and we are doing it slowly with full extension of the arm. Again, I'm reminding you, this is Kali exercise. The strikes are based on Kali principles, but we are modifying it to be suited as a form of mild to moderate exercise. We can do the crossover. Just continue for about 5 to 10 minutes more, and I'll see you later with the trivia. Okay, so we'll have some educational trivia to answer some questions which I think is important for us. Hello friends, it's a good evening, and welcome back to Doc Cholo's vlog for Kali exercise, and this time we are going to continue on our trivia. Okay, I think there are some important things that we have to take up today. Okay, first of all, I mentioned to you about the maximum heart rate. If you are a senior or you are one who is restricted to physical activity due to some problems like hypertension and heart disease or something, but you are allowed to do some limited physical activity, then this is for you. Kali exercise. Okay, so anyway, if you are a senior and you are concerned about limited exercise, okay, limited strenuous physical activity, then we have to know what maximum heart rate is. Okay, what's the maximum heart rate? Maximum heart rate is the number of heartbeats that you could acquire during a physical activity, and it's a limit, meaning to say you have to be aware about your maximum heart rate in order not to put so much stress in your heart or your cardiovascular system. So the maximum heart rate, especially for seniors, would be 200 minus your age, meaning to say if you are like me, 70 years old, so 200 minus 70, that brings you to about 130. So 130 is your target heart rate, and you will know this even if you are well used to it now. Okay, you can when you start to have difficulty in talking after your exercise, you are panting and you are short of breath, it means to say that you might be in the level of your maximum heart rate already. So you take time and take your pulse, count it in 1 whole minute, and you should be able to arrive at somewhere in your maximum heart rate. So say for example 130 is my target heart rate. I could go as far as 140, or maybe if you would want to have it only for 120, that's okay. That's plus and minus 10 out of your estimated maximum heart rate. This is done in order for you to avoid putting too much stress on your cardiovascular system when you are doing physical activity. So for example, you are 60 years old, 200 minus 60, your maximum heart rate is about 140. You can go as much as 150, or you can go lower to about 130. Take a rest and allow your pulse rate to settle down to lower a bit, lower than your maximum heart rate. Then you can proceed, do another round of exercise, being aware about what your maximum heart rate is. So I think that's good enough. Okay, so next, let's talk about Kali, arnis, and modern arnis. Okay, so uh, Kali is not arnis. Similar but not the same. Okay, arnis de mano and modern arnis are different as well. Similar but not exactly the same. Now we need to get the history to be able to understand this, and I think not many understand the history of the Philippines in terms of the weapons used. Okay, arnis de mano is a Spanish word. Arnis meaning armor, referring to a weapon. Okay, armor, an arm that is used by the hands. So that's why it's called arnis de mano. And you would understand that the terms are usually Spanish terms. So arnis de mano is actually a weapon system that has been introduced during the Spanish time, because the Philippines was colonized by the Spaniards since 1500 up to 1900. That's 15 to 1900. That's about 400 years of Spanish colonization here. So, okay, let's talk about that's okay. The arnis de mano was introduced or was established or was originated from and during the Spanish time. So where was it derived from? Okay, from the beginning of time, even in the early of year of 500 600 AD. Okay, after the death of that's about 500 to 800. That was during the time of wars, and including Asian countries. And that was the time as well when people were moving from one place to another in Asia. And that's why the influence would be involving, there are big similarities between the Asian countries, including the Philippines. Okay, what is that? There is a weapon of war called kalis. Okay, K-A-L-I-S, kalis. Now, kalis is a bladed weapon. Okay, usually about 32 to 40 inches long. And this includes the long kris. Of course, you are familiar with kris. The wavy sword, it's about 36 inches long or 32 inches long. And there's a kris punyal, a dagger that looks like a kris. Okay, similar. There is the kampilan, which is around 40 plus inches long. And there's the pira. And I'd like you to see what pira is. This is pira. See how long? This is a bladed instrument for war, and it's very heavy. Okay, and I'd like you to compare it. This is pinuti. This is pinuti. You see the difference? It's about 6 inches difference. This is an agriculture. This is a farm instrument. While this pira is one of the kalis. Okay, one of the members of a family of blades known as kalis. Okay, this is pira, used in Mindanao. See how long? That's a weapon. That's a weapon. Okay, now kalis has been there and it has been used commonly in Asia. Kalis has been used in Asia, including Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and especially in Mindanao and in the Sulu archipelago. They called the war instrument as kalis. So it's usually associated, they are using it usually with a shield as well. Shield and a long knife. And there is a dagger, a shorter version of it. Okay, for example, you're using a kris, you have a small punyal, they call it punyal, a dagger. So they have actually 3 instruments of war during time in the Philippines, like for example from 780, 5 to 780. And this was during the, tribal wars, religious wars, commonly during those times. So you see, kalis has been there, and it refers to a bladed weapon for war. And you had a long blade and a short blade, a punyal and a shield. And so, when the Spaniards came, the Filipinos and the rest of Asia already had a system of fighting system established already, known as kalis. When the Spaniard came in 1521, we know the history of the Philippines. Okay, we know the history of the Philippines, that Ferdinand Magellan came, and they said discovered the Philippines. I don't know why. Okay, the history is somewhat questionable, because the Philippines was there, and there has been established governmental system already. We had a dialect, a language already, and we have a system of writing, and there was a religion, God-based religion already. But then history is, I don't know why they say that Magellan was the one who discovered the Philippines. Well, maybe. But anyway, Magellan came and they were met by warriors in the Visayas, or in the Visayan area. And so they came back. That's 1521. They came back sometime about 20 more years after. About 1540 plus year. Then they came again and conquered the islands of the Philippines, mostly in big cities, okay, or mostly in the bigger populated area and the coastlines, all over the Philippines except Mindanao and Sulu. And in this area, there were also religious wars going on. The Arabs came over, and Bruneians came, and the neighboring countries came, and they were trying to expand their territory by occupying some areas in the Philippines. But of course, the Philippines, the southern part of the Philippines, was never conquered entirely by the Spaniards or by any colonizers, for that matter. And so, where the Spaniards colonized, where the Spaniards were, in many areas from Luzon, Visayas, and parts of Mindanao, okay, they banned the use of kali. They banned the use of kalis, a long-bladed weapon. But in many areas, kalis was never touched. They were never influenced by the Spaniards. Okay, so it was banned, and you know what happened is that uh, these Filipinos, some of them were taken by the Spaniards to become guards, okay, and to become a force to go against the guerrillas in the mountains, okay. So these collaborators with the Spaniards, okay, were brought to the camps or the forts, and they were trained, okay, and their training was based on a bladed instrument, a European bladed instrument brought by Spain, okay, the saber and the foil or spada. And so you see, they were training, and what was used during their training were the stick or the rattan stick. I don't know if you believe me or not, okay, but you can check out the records and the history, okay. I might be saying a different narrative compared to what the common narrative is, but you can do the research. There were collaborators in the Philippines, and they were trained to use the saber or the spada, and the techniques, okay, the techniques were European. And you will know it exactly. We are talking now of the stick. When they came, they took some Filipinos to train, and these Filipinos were trained in order to be able to become guards, local guards, and to train elite forces to go against the existing warriors that were not yet conquered. Okay, so in the camps they were trained techniques of spada. And you would see that if you study the spada, okay, eskrima. Eskrima is fencing. There are actually three types of fencing, but the common one are the foil and the saber. The saber is the one, a sharp instrument, a sharp long instrument, a sword that's used to slash and to stab. And if you note the arnis de mano, okay, they called this the arnis de mano when they trained it using the stick. And these Filipinos in the camps were trained by the Spaniards to learn how to use the spada using the stick, and they called this arnis de mano. The arnis de mano, the techniques of which were partly from the use of bolo or the kali, and partly or majority of the techniques that they used in arnis de mano were techniques of espada. I don't know. So I just have to smile and laugh. I don't know if you're going to believe me, but you can check out the records, okay? And so you will note that the techniques used in arnis de mano, this is what they call as the traditional arnis de mano. So that's a Spanish word to denote a stick being used as a weapon. This was mainly used to train, okay? And the techniques that they used there was mostly, or 75%, techniques of the spada. Okay? You have a lot of Spanish word, redonda, and abanico, and many more. Okay, many more. And that's why you would know if it's a traditional arnis. It's named according to a Spanish term, and these terms are actually the techniques that they used in espada, saber. The saber, the foil fencing is triangular shaped, thin, uh, sword, okay, with a hand protector. And that's how they use it, okay. And so you can have the saber, and usually the saber are used by conquistadores, okay. The Spaniards who wore this were actually as a weapon of war, and they were going against the weapon of war of the Philippines when they came over. And of course, Ferdinand Magellan was killed by a Campilan, and you check the record that it was actually multiple assailants. He was hit by a spear, okay, which was part of the weapons that they used. A spear hit him, I think, in the legs, and so he fell. And then a lot of assailants went and actually hacked him to death, pierced him with the bolo, and so on and so forth. But the leader of these people was Lapu-Lapu. Okay, so the spada, okay, the spada. When they say spada and dagger, spada and dagger is actually a weapon used by Europeans, especially Spain. Not only Spain, but most of the European countries was using the saber. And they had a sport. In Spain, they called it scrima. When you are dueling, or in the modern language, they call it a sparring. When you spar using a bladed instrument, whether a foil or a saber, then they call that a scrima. When the Philippines were trained, they used the stick. And so when they were training with duel and sparring, and they would also label that as scrima. And that's how arnis de mano and scrima came into being. How about Kali? Was it influenced? No. Kali was not influenced, but a lot of Kali system or techniques were used, incorporated into the arnis de mano by Filipinos themselves. So there were Mindanao, Archipelago, Sulu, and part of Palawan were never colonized completely by Spaniards. So the weapon system still exists up to today. Okay, so what's modern arnis? Modern arnis started in the early 60s, close to 60s. Okay, the Spaniards stayed in the Philippines for more than 400 years. That's about 1521, and then they came back about 1543 or 48, and then they stayed up to 1898. That's about 400 years, and they handed over the Philippines to the Americans. Okay, so the Americans stayed for 50 years, about 48, not exactly 50 years, about 48, okay, until 1946. So 1898 to 1946, that was the end of the World War. Okay, so there goes the history. So in 1970, okay, there was already some modifications to the arnis de mano that the Philippines, the old Filipinos who survived, okay, who received the art of arnis de mano, already had modified. They learned, okay, in areas that were colonized by Spain, there were remnants of those who have been doing arnis de mano and eskrima. But then again, some of them also survived. Those who were who had the system of kalis. Okay, and by the way, kalis is the original word. It refers to the bladed weapon used by Filipinos long time before the Spaniards came. But when the Spaniards came, they could not pronounce the S at the end. Okay, I know how to speak Spanish, by the way. I'm a Chabacano. Okay, Chabacano is similar to Spanish, but I can speak moderate, pure Spanish in Spain. Okay, Spaniards minimizes the sound of the S at the end of words, and that's why kalis is not, when a Spaniard pronounces words that ends in S, you won't hear the S, and that's the reason why what was passed over from generation to generation is the word Kali. Okay, so Kali is the same old Kali, never had been modernized. But arnis, okay, during the 1970s, okay, during the 1970s, the arnis de mano was modernized, okay, because during this time, that was the popular rise of karate and other martial arts, Asian martial arts such as Aikido and especially Jiu-Jitsu. Before judo, okay, judo was not made popular in the Philippines, but Jiu-Jitsu was popularized, especially in movies. So in 1970s, in Bacolod, a guru there, a grandmaster, coined the word modern arnis, meaning to say to use the techniques of arnis de mano handed over from the time of the Spaniards, and incorporated some martial arts, Asian martial arts, especially jiu-jitsu and karate. And so when you see, when you go to YouTube today, most of the arnis are modern arnis, where you have this this arm locks, and strikes using the hand and locks using the arm, and these arms of the stick. These are all jiu-jitsu moves. It was incorporated, and they labeled it as a modern arnis, and the originator of this went abroad, disseminated, and put up some dojo schools of arnis abroad, and hence the spread of the modern arnis. How about Kali? No, Kali remains Kali. So if you see a weapon of war, a long bladed instrument, kris, the pira, kampilan, these are all the weapons of war. Now, there is a modern weapon that they use now, which is derived from modern arnis. They say it's called ginunting. Ginunting is a farm blade, but it was modified and popularized by Prado. Okay, I know Prado was a military who trained in the modern arnis, and he is a blacksmith, and so he designed his own ginunting. Okay, ginunting is a short-bladed instrument about 20 plus inches long, similar to farm bolos. Okay, pinuti is one. There are a lot of other names. In Mindanao, what we have here is the kris and the pira. Kampilan, we can see it's not so popular, because kampilan is more popular in the Visayan region. We have here the barong. Okay, barong is a heavy leaf-like blade. It's a bit short, but these are the ones used to decapitate. Okay, so the use of the blade, the use of Kali. Okay, the Kali still uses the blade along with a dagger. Okay, so the normal olden time, or the old way of Kali in Mindanao, you have a long bladed instrument and a dagger. It is inserted in your, part of your apparel was a scarf or a long cloth wrapped around your waist, and there you insert the long blade here on the right, on the weak area, and the dagger behind your back, or in the back side. Okay, where you can get it with in an ice pick way. Okay, and that's how it is. And that's Kali. Okay, so I hope this trivia gives you a bit of information, more accurate information, and that's why if you see the YouTube, you can easily feel most of them are modern arnis style. But then again, the problem is they also include Kali in it. But in fact, when you name this as the Kali moves with Spanish terminologies, it doesn't feel right. Okay, because these are all Spanish-derived moves. Espada, idaga. Unfortunately, okay, they have coined this in the 90s. In the early 90s, they have incorporated arnis, modern arnis, in the curriculum of the physical education. And unfortunately, there are a lot of strikes that are intended for saber. Like, for example, the 12 strikes. The 12 strikes are saber, bladed instrument. You don't hit the, with bladed instrument, you don't hit in the head. You hit the soft tissues of the body. The trust is an American term. Trust is an American term. And trusting, in Spain, the British as well use this, the saber. So you will note that a lot of terminologies are not Filipino, and in fact they coined it as Filipino martial arts. And so my Kali, my form of Kali, is a Kali exercise. It's not intended for battle. What I am doing is I intend this to be a practical way to do exercise. But the principles are Kali. Okay? Kali, meaning to say the Filipino art of blades. Not espada. Here I avoid using Spanish terms, but I use the local terminologies. Like, for example, Tigbas is hacking or cutting or chopping. Like dunggab is thrusting, piercing. Okay? Plancha is like ironing. Tigbas. Okay? And nothing in Filipino martial art, for its justice, doesn't use Spanish term. Spanish term are Spanish martial arts. No, I'm sorry. No intention of destroying what is already there. But I just wanted to tell you the truth. Okay? So, so much for that, folks. I hope you have learned something. And I don't know, we probably have a longer time spent now for this trivia. Okay? So I hope you learned something about, one is the maximum heart rate. Two is a little history of the Philippines in relation to its weapons of war. Three, the origin of arnis de mano and the modern arnis. Okay, so the modern arnis is characterized by incorporation of Asian martial arts, including jiu-jitsu, karate, aikido. So pulling down opponents is aikido and jiu-jitsu. Some words has been, okay, most of the techniques in arnis de mano that was handed over or brought over to modern arnis are Spanish, and they are not Kali moves. Okay, maybe similar, but not Kali moves. Okay, when it's termed as Spanish, it means that the technique was incorporated from the espada, a saber. Okay, eskrima and arnis is not the same. Okay, similar but not the same. So, folks, I hope you got. If you have any questions, okay, I'd love to answer them, and I hope my video, my trivia, will be able to give you some other alternative insights as to what Kali, arnis, and eskrima is all about. So that's all, folks. Thank you very much for listening.